Hello and welcome to Pickleball Therapy, the podcast dedicated to your pickleball improvement. This episode is a special episode. It's a bonus episode that we prepared. We wanted to give you some tips while you're heading out to the courts to get you ready to do your best when you're out on the pickleball court. This podcast is intended for you to tab it or mark it or save a copy of it somewhere so you can play it whenever you're going out to the courts. We're going to spend the next 10 minutes together going over three things in particular. We're going to talk about some tips to help you play your best out there. We're going to give you some tips to help you with your improvement while you're out there today. If you're listening to this podcast, we know that you're interested in pickleball improvement. So we're going to give you some tips to help you with that when you're playing today. And lastly, we're going to give you some tips to help you enjoy your day on the pickleball court and to avoid potentially destructive distractions that can creep into our minds. Let's go ahead and jump into each and get ourselves ready to have an awesome day on the pickleball court. Jump into what we can do today so that we play our best. First of all, it's important to understand that we are going to try to play our best today. We are not going to compare ourselves to some arbitrary standard or some other player. We are going to play the best that we can play, given what's going on in our lives today, whether we have a lot on our mind, how we feel, if our back's hurting us a little bit, whatever. We're going to do the best we can out there, taking ourselves in the condition that we are currently in. First thing we want to do when we get on the court today is let's spend a few minutes today warming up our bodies before we play. Let's get our body ready. We need our body when we're out on the court. Let's get it ready and we'll definitely play better. When we get ready to do our pickleball warm-up, so pickleball warm-up is different, right? We've warmed up our bodies first, done some dynamic stretching. We're going to do some pickleball warm-up. We're going to be intentional in our pickleball warm-up. We're going to bend our knees and engage as we hit the ball. Engage our core, get ready, get down. We're going to get back to ready each time we hit the ball. What we're doing is we're preparing our mind now. So not just warming our body up, we're warming our mind up. Getting it ready to play with a discipline that we want when we're out there and an intentionality while we're playing. That will allow us to play better. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to want to breathe when we're out there, right? Sometimes we forget to breathe when we're out there and things get a little hairy. We're going to really focus on our breathing. If we're feeling anxious, we're going to use our double push breath. I want you to practice it now with me. Basically, it's one inhale and a double push on the exhale. So we're going to inhale and then exhale twice. Once, second time. The second time, make sure you really push everything out. Let's try it one more time. So an inhale and a double exhale. First, second. The second one's the key one. That's the one that gets those shoulders to drop down and relaxes your body. Remember, we need oxygen when we're out on the pickleball court. Breathe. You'll definitely play better. We want you to play the game at a pace that is good for you, at a nice, controlled pace. We want to avoid rushing around the court or in our minds. You have more time out there than you realize. Take your time. Allow you to play better. We want you to take our paddle out of your hand between rallies, right? We're going to take our paddle out of our hand between rallies. That'll allow our mind and our bodies to reset between the rallies. It allows us to be better ready to play the next rally because we'll be calmer when we start the next rally. And one last thing from a strategic standpoint that we want to use, that we can use every time we play, is today, let's take the net out of play as much as possible. It's impossible to beat the net. Not even our best training that we have inside the system can show you how to beat the net, except to avoid the net altogether. Even the best players out there, when they play, they don't play with the net. They don't mess around with the net. If your shot hits the net, that's fine. Make a note of it, but adjust the next one. No net will mean better play. Now that we have some tips on how to play better, what can we do today to improve as a pickleball player? To continue along our path to improvement, what can we do today on the courts? Now, there are certain things that we can do when we're playing, but let's not confuse play with drilling. We can try use different shots. Today we can try and hit a different shot here and a different shot there to see how it works. Today is not the day to learn how to hit the shots. That's something that we do when we drill. That said, if you get there early and there's an open court and a willing player, get out there and work on a shot you want to for a few minutes. Even if all you get is 5 or 6 minutes of drilling in, this focused attention to one shot will definitely help you, not just today when you play, but in the future. What we want to focus on when we're out on the court today is we want to focus on strengthening our intentionality. We want to really pay attention to our intentionality when we're out on the court. Intentionality, like everything else, is a learned skill. So we're going to be out there with added intentionality today. This means that we're going to have an intention with as many shots as we can today. Doesn't mean every shot, as many as we can. When we serve, we're going to try and serve deep. When we return, we're going to try and return deep. Every shot that we hit will be according to an objective that we are trying to accomplish. We are trying to move farther and farther away from ball over net pickleball and move towards a more intentional approach to every shot that we hit. Now, there are going to be times that we're going to probably end up back in ball over net pickleball. That's fine. Give yourself a break. It happens. What we want to do is catch ourselves when that happens and return again to our intentionality. We are going to focus on one thing today, one area that we want to work on and in terms of our improvement. We want you to pick an area that you're working on and keep working on that area until you're comfortable with it. For example, are you working on get past 4? Are you working on your return of serve? Are you working on simply serving better? Can be anything, but it should be only one item. And we want you to spend your time working on that one item while you're playing today, really focusing on that one item. We want you to challenge yourself when you're playing, but reasonably. If you're playing a team that always beats you 11-2, rather than trying to win against them right now, why don't you aim to get 6 points? Give yourself a reasonable marker to work against. Embrace the challenges as part of your growth as a player. You're going to lose games as you progress and play against more skilled players. Keep at it, and one day you'll be in their shoes. If your play today will include play at different levels of play in a group setting, then here's our advice there. When you're playing an opponent that's not quite at your level, work on your soft game. Work on your dinking. Work on moving the ball around. Work on things that will help your game long term. If you're playing an opponent who's at a higher level than you or maybe better than you, make sure to involve that player when you play them. You want to hit balls that player hits back at you. You want to learn how to handle the harder shots. And I don't mean harder in the sense of power. I just mean harder in the sense of maybe more difficult to handle because of how they're placed and the intentionality that player brings to the game. You also want to hit to that better player because you want that player to come back and play with you again. So now we have some tips to play better, and we have some tips to work on our improvement. We're going to be very focused today on what we're doing out there and working on our intentionality. Let's talk about how we can frame our day out to ensure that we enjoy our day on the pickleball courts. First, remember you're heading out there to play pickleball. You kidding me? You're going to go play pickleball. Come on now. What's there not to like about that? Now I want you to think about, why are you heading to the courts? Are you heading out there because you want to have some social time with your friends? Do you want to get some exercise? Are you just trying to get out of the house for a little bit and stay active? Do you want to learn a new skill or keep on learning this game that you're playing? Whatever it is, keep that in mind as you play. As long as you are getting whatever you answer to the question of why you're heading to the courts, you are getting what you bargained for. Be happy for that. Not only will that help you feel better about your day, you'll also play better. When you are focused on things like I missed a shot or I didn't win that last game, that is going to cloud your mind and make your play not as crisp as it would be if you were focused on, if instead you were remembering the important reasons why you came out to the court, whether it's your friends, getting activity, exercise, whatever it is. Keep that in mind. You'll feel better and you'll play better. Unless your name is Simone Jardim, you are not getting paid to play pickleball. You do not make a living off of playing pickleball. So remember that when you're out there. Now, if your name is Simone Jardim, hello, Simone. It is okay for yourself one to observe when you're out there. Ball went into the net. Next time, give yourself more margin over the net. It is not okay for yourself one to go further than this. Things like, I cannot believe I missed that shot, is neither productive nor realistic. There is nothing you can do with that information. And I hope you know that you will miss shots, even easy ones. If your self one starts to get out of balance, take your paddle out of the rotation, put your headphones in, and restart this podcast. Seriously, You need a reset. Now, if you don't know what Self 1 is and Self 2 is, we recommend a book called The Inner Game of Tennis. You can find that at wearepickleball.com/resources to get yourself a copy of that book. It'll really help you when you're out on the court. Every time you step out onto the pickleball court, you've already won. You are playing the greatest sport on the planet with mostly awesome people. Compete today and do your best. Continue to grow as a player and as a person. Honor yourself, your opponents, and the game. Remember, it is a game that you're playing. Have fun out there.